In part one, I was showing you how you sometimes have to be patient and wait for light to come right. We were at one of my favourite locations on the little island of Lanzarote, where I run a workshop each year. And I took 3 main images and I said I'd show you how I developed the raw files in Lightroom. We're actually going to work on 2 in the interest of keeping this video manageable, otherwise it might be just a little bit long. So I'm just going to work on the 2 which got the most comments and feedback. So let's have a quick look at what they're going to be. So there was this one which was taken inside the abandoned restaurant looking out at the village beyond, and then the other was right at the beginning. Now initially I said I liked this photo the best, but I've actually changed my mind. I prefer this second one because I kind of like that foreground, but when I looked in the back of the camera I wasn't so keen. So let's get Lightroom up and running. Here we go. So here's the images. We've got this one here. That's another shot I took. That's included in my 7 Steps to Perfect Pictures course, but we're not going to look at it now because there was quite a lot of different techniques used and it would take a little too long. And then this last one. So the first thing I have to do, I'm just going to reset it. Let's get rid of the settings that I did. And this one here, reset it. Right, so now we're back with the raw file as it was. Let's take a little look at this one first. Now, as you can see, the raw looks pretty dull. Why does it look dull? Raw files do look pretty dull because they're just data files. They haven't had any work done on them. When you look at the JPEG in your camera, that's had the raw file developed by your camera. And this is my prime argument for making your own JPEGs and not leaving it to the camera because you're not sure what you're going to get. So let's have a look. Where do I begin? You can see from the histogram all the data we need is there in one shot. So the first thing I will do is just take those highlights down a bit. You see how it's just pulling in the sky a little bit more? The shadows are pretty good. They don't really need much brightening. I'm just going to lift them a tad and then I'm going to look at my whites. Little tip for you: if you press the Alt key and just move the slider, you can bring up the highlights and then bring it back until they disappear. Blacks, shadows, I only want a little hint of shadow at this point. But also, working on an image, it's a painterly thing. You move back and forth. There isn't a do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, and it's all done. You've got to work with it. You've got to move and flow just like you have when you're shooting the picture. Next, I want to put a vibrance into the colour, a little bit of vibrance into it. We're just going to lift that up a bit and maybe increase the saturation. So let's have a look. What difference have we made so far? Already you can see there is a difference between the 2. Cool. The next thing I think I'm going to tackle is the sky. I want to have a little bit more angriness in the sky. I'm going to do that with a Grad Filter. So let's just drag that down into the picture. Now the horizon is on the wonk. I can see that. I'll correct it in a minute. I only want a fairly soft grad, so let's just soften that up a bit and bring it down to about there and line it up with the picture, and then we'll actually just put it straight and then we'll straighten the picture to match it. We can always go back and adjust later. What am I going to do? I'm going to put a little bit of dehaze. Let's just take that setting off. Let's put a bit of dehaze into the sky. Now be careful with dehaze. You can go way too far, but I want just a bit there. I think I'll take the exposure down a bit just to accentuate those angry clouds that we had. A little bit lower perhaps. This sky's very blue because of the white balance, so let's just pop a bit of yellow into it, take some of that blue away, and look, you see how it is highlighting up where the sun was coming in under the clouds when we shot it. We've got a little bit more interesting colour going on there, and the clouds are looking a little bit more natural. Cool bananas. Did I really just say that? Never mind. Let's have another look. You see the difference we've got already. This is what your camera cannot do. This is why I created my 7 Steps to Perfect Pictures course, because your camera can't do this, it can't think. So the next thing I think I want to touch on is the foreground, because I want to just kind of give that a little bit more life, a little bit more of a lift. I'm going to use a brush for that. Let's take up a brush tool. Just increase the size, right square arrow, just reset that. I don't want any fiddliness going on in there. Put on my mask because I want to see where I'm brushing. Now I would recommend you, generally speaking, do these things a little bit more carefully than I am and just sort of getting carefully around the edges, but I'm doing it pretty quickly just in the interest of not making this video last ages. Let's just increase the exposure a bit. I'm going to use my up arrow key so I can do a little bit at a time and watch it. That's pretty cool. I think I want to possibly try a bit of dehaze into it. There we go. It sort of increases the contrast a bit. Let's just lift the highlights a little. There we go. That's about right. Look, we've only gone half a stop, but it's made a difference. That's pretty good. Now I'm going to add some saturation just to help the foreground colours in that. You see, look, as I add saturation, we're getting a bit more life in those greens. I'm pretty good with that. That's our starting point. Let's have a look at before and after. Big difference already, and we haven't even got going yet. Now what about our pool of light going on back here in the background? I want to just accentuate that. I want to make it a little bit stronger. I'm going to use a radial filter. So let's just pop that on there. Let's just sort of drag that into place. Cover roughly the area I want to go, which is going to be something like that, because we've got this mountain, it's just running up the side of the hill. That should be pretty good. Radials are really useful. Now let's just ease that exposure up just a bit, not too far. Look, I've only gone 0.3 of a stop. It's only a little bit. I don't want the picture to look too fiddled with. I want to keep it looking fairly natural. I'm going to increase the contrast. I find just moving the sliders together so they're about the same distance actually helps. I also want to add a little bit of clarity just into that area, not too much, which is, you see, if you go too far it looks a bit bonkers, but when enlarged it will be noticeable even though you're not seeing much as I do it. I also want to increase the blacks in that area a bit. Sorry, as I say increase, I mean I want to make them darker, because where the sun's shining there'll be more shadows, and that's just going to help keep it looking natural. There we go, we have a pretty good starting point just there. Next, let's have a look at our colours. What's going on with our colours? Now this little pool over here, this is where the sun is, and it wants to be nice and yellow. So I'm going to white balance into this area where it's in shade and the whites are very blue, because it's going to have the effect of adding more yellow, which will accentuate the other side. Let's just choose something nice and clean and white, something like that. I think. Let's click on it. Right, I don't think that made it. Yeah, there we go. Can you see the difference? It may have gone a bit green. Let's have a look at a before and after. Look, you can see there's a different white balance. We've got more interest, we've got more detail. It's coming together. Okay, I'm going to whiz down the bottom here. I want to have a look at the overall dehaze and see what happens. I don't want to lose too much haziness because, you know, that was one of the things I liked about it. There we go, that's just a bit. Look, be careful with dehaze. Be careful with all these things. Just be gentle. Next, I think I'm going to brighten it up a tad, and then I'm going to go back and look at the whites again. Let's just ease that one off and check my blacks. Not bad, not bad, we're getting there. Now let's add some more vibrance to this. We're getting into getting a bit more life and a bit more colour. We don't want too much because we don't want it to look too fiddled with. I like going back and looking at the before and after. Look at the difference we've got already. It's just so much more interesting. But I don't find these little patches of moss interesting. I'm going to do a bit of a crop here. I'm just going to ease those off. I'm just going to take them up there because I just want to lose those and just have a little hint of this concrete in the foreground. Next, I want to get this horizon sorted out. Look, you can see it's wonky. I'm a little bit anally retentive about that. So we'll pop into the crop. We're just going to oik that up a little bit on the corner, and look, that horizon is now pretty much level. That's better. Yeah. So we're starting to get somewhere. But as I look at it, I think I want a bit more life in that sky. Let's just take our grad filter. Look, you see, actually it moved with the picture. Let's just hoik it round a bit. Decrease the grad. Let's take it down here further. Nice, we're just helping that orange bit in the sky. I think I'm going to increase the saturation in the sky, which will help it a bit further. You see, if I go over here, it looks like a sunset, but it also looks like a very false sunset. Personally, I don't like the false look. I like to keep it somewhere close to reality. That's not bad. Let's take it down. Just a sneeze of exposure again. Look at that moodiness. Not bad, not bad. I think I've got too much saturation in there. I don't want it to look completely mad. That's good. Okay, I'd say we're very, very close now. But I think I'm going to manually, just by eye, drop the blacks a bit. That's better. That's better. You see, as I'm sneaking in a few blacks, it's starting to look more natural. Let's check it. Alt slider. It says there's quite a lot of black in the foreground. Well, that's fair enough. But we can always do that because we've got it masked. Let's see what happens if I drop them further onto the village. That's better. Too much. Take it back by eye. There we go. Let's go back to our... Whoop, wrong one. Let's go back to our brush that's working down here. And just take that exposure up a bit. And take those shadows up a bit. Look at that. That's better. So it's like we're in a bit of a pool of light ourselves. We're now starting to rock and roll with this. The next thing I want to do, I think, you can see there's a tiny bit of light here sneaking through on the hillside on this side. I just want to help that along too. So I am going to actually take this radial filter we made here, Control or Command duplicate, and just bring it across to this area. Now look, you see it's such a small amount, it's not making a vast difference. I might just sneak it up a bit. Here we go, look, there we go. Just take that into here, keep the blacks where they were, pull that towards me a bit, narrow it off a bit. And it's a very subtle thing, but I think it's made a difference. Let's look at our before and after. I think you can see there's an enormous difference. There's one final thing I want to do with this. I want to just pop down the bottom of my controls and I want to add a very slight vignette because it will just help showing the village. Look, we've only gone to -10. It's not very much. If I take that off, you see it's subtle. You start going like that, it just looks bleh. So let's just take that down. Where was I? -10, 11. Come on, where's 10? I'm not finding 10. I had it then. 9. That's where we're going. Less is more. Okay, I think we're looking pretty good at this point. I'd say we've got that image rocking. Let's have a last look at the before and after. Pretty good. Let's look at it full screen. Yeah, I'd say we're there. The only thing I am seeing when I look at it full screen in front of my monitor is that I think it could use just a tiny hint of sharpening. So let's just take that up a bit. We're on 25, which is the standard. I've only gone to 30. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, I'm happy with that, and I'm going to mask it. What's masking? Masking, it removes grain. At the moment what you're seeing is only the areas that are white. I press the Alt key and move the slider, and only the white areas are being sharpened. When you have sharpening in an image, it introduces a bit more grain. So I'm just choosing what I want sharpened. I only want the details, the edges sharpened. So I haven't put in very much. It's looking good. Any other final tweaks? I don't think so. I might just touch in a bit of clarity. I don't want to go too far with that. It started to look a bit mad. There we go. It did to my eye sitting in front of the screen. I'd say we're pretty good. I'd say we've got that image nicely nailed. Last full screen look for you. And there it is. So that's what went into the first image, and now let's take a look at this last one here, because this one was a little more tricky. Now a lot of you said, why didn't you shoot an HDR? Well, the thing is, I don't really need one. You can see from looking at the preview here in Lightroom, I've got detail pretty much everywhere. The histogram here is telling me that the highlights are in no way clipped. There's a tiny bit of clipping in the shadows, but most of the data in the places I need it, it's all there. So why would I want to shoot multiple exposures, bracket the exposures, and then combine them as an HDR and then have to process it? I'm just giving myself more work. I don't really want to spend more time in front of the computer than I've got to. One shot with a careful exposure, job done. So what am I going to do? The first thing I'm going to do is I notice I've got a little bit of converging verticals. You see how this straight here and this one here, they're kind of going like this a little bit because I've got a bit of convergence. I just want to sort that out. So I'm just going to whip that up so I can see what's going on. And down the bottom in our lovely Lightroom, verticals. Let's just see what we can do. So let's see, constrain the crop so that it does it for me. That's better. That's better. That's very close. I think an incy bit of rotation. Let's go the other way. I've gone too far. Yeah, that's better. I really notice things like converging verticals. There we go. I'd say that's pretty good. Now, back up the top. I put in, what, plus 1.25. You see, I could have increased my exposure when I shot it, but we're good. I've just added a little bit more. Highlights, let's pull those down because that's going to have an effect on what's going on outside because that's the highlight areas. Oof, get in. Look at that. Look, we brought back all that moodiness and excitement that was outside. Didn't need an HDR. Let's just brighten it up a sneeze. Let's look at our shadows. Now the shadows are pretty good. The histogram's showing nothing's clipped, and really the only true blacks are going to be like that line, little bits of shadow around the edge of these ghastly wooden boards, which I kind of wish weren't there, but they are. So I don't really think the shadows need much. I might lift them just a touch, just a little touch. Here we go. It lightens the inside if you go flat out, but I don't really like that look. It was darker inside, and there's something we're going to do in a minute. Let's check our whites. Let's just bring those up and back. Now, just because these details are showing in Lightroom, so that's saying it's accurate. It's a good guide, but it doesn't mean to say it's right. There isn't a right, it's only what you like. So I'd always readjust using your eyes. Good. So, before and after. Quite a difference already, isn't there? Let's start pimping it up. So, let's add a bit of vibrance to it. I like a bit of vibrance. It just helps those colours along. Don't go mad, because it'll look like that. Be careful. If you want to keep some sort of natural look, I just like to be on the edge of it looking too fiddled with, but I want it natural. I'd say we're probably good there as a starting point. We'll come back to it. Let's have a look. There we go. See, we're starting to make some real differences, and it's not taking long, is it? Now, the next thing I want to do is a little village down here with its little pool of light on it. I want to just do a little bit of work on that. So this time I'm going to use a brush because it's more controllable than the Radial Filter. I like to mask up, so I'm just going to do that. Make sure nothing's switched on here. No, good. And this will just show me where I'm working. Now you can see the edge of the light going up around there, so I'm just going to follow it around those edges like that, let it bleed up there. Take the brush size down a bit, square bracket, and just bring it up to this edge here. Now here's the thing, we can just add in a little bit in between these bars. So let's just adjust our brush. Let's take the feathering down. If you can see that, you see I can move the feathering. Can you see that ring moving in and out? Let's just take that down, give it a harder feather, make it fit between the bars, and here we go. Now here's a little thing, if you shift click you get a straight line. How's that? That's really handy, isn't it? All these little tips are going to be in my 7 steps to perfect pictures course. That was wrong. You see, I shouldn't talk and do, should I? Let's just move that up a bit. Yeah, let's just run that right across there like that. And there's a bit of light, look, sneaking over the hill, so I'm going to take that up to here and again back down to here from the top of the hill and down to the bottom. Move it over. I need a smaller brush for that, so let's stick with this one for the minute, and slightly larger in there and slightly smaller there. Clickety click. Take that one down a bit, left bracket, and run it up to there. Good. That one goes into here like that. I missed that bit. Okay, that's not bad. Let's just lift the brush. I'm going to just increase the feather a sneezy bit and just run a very soft one just kind of in here and just a little bit around there. There we go. That is the area I want to work on. turn off my mask and do the work. It's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Let's just lift the exposure just a bit, not too much. I'm going to take the contrast with it. I'm going to take the blacks down a bit so that they're more natural. I'm going to add in a sneeze of dehaze and a bit more saturation. I also want that to be a little bit more yellow because sunlight is more yellow, so let's just add a bit of yellow into there. You can see it just starting to take effect. Lovely, lovely, lovely. I think we're good. I'm going to put in a bit of clarity too because that will also help keep it looking a bit more natural. There we go. We've got a nice little thing going on around the edge of the village. Let's have a before and after. You see how it's very, very flat here, but we've just lifted it. I may have overdone it a bit up there. We'll come back and have a look. You see, this is all a very painterly thing. You move back and forth, you try things. Actually, I think looking at it larger, it's fine. I think that's fine. I'm going to leave it alone because that's what a pool of light does. Right, good stuff. Now, I'd say the outside is pretty much done, but I want to do some work on the inside. How are we going to do that? Really, really easy and quick. Let's take a brush. Let's just put a hard edge to it. So let's just take the feathering down so it's pretty hard around the edge. There we go. Now what I want to do is work around these windows. So once again, I want my mask. And I'm going to just put in a click here, line it up, and then where do I want to go? This is so great for a straight edge. Be careful not to move into the scene outside because I don't want to work on that. I don't want to get a nasty halo. Can you see in there? Look, I'm going to have a halo there. I'll show you how to fix that in a minute. And just put that in there a little bit higher and run that back to here. And just work my way around the window. Won't take very long. Take that across to there. Good. Now let's just work around the other. Again, run that down to about there. Over a bit. There we go. Straight down this one to about there. Work my way across. I can go up a bit and take that back across to here. So I just want to very carefully get that little bit along the edge. Nice. Okay, so we've gone around the edge of the window. Now what I've got to do is just mask it, just whack it on in. I've done the detail stuff pretty easily. Let's get that covered. Now by the way guys, there's no right way to do any of this. There is just the tools that are contained within Lightroom, and it's up to you to choose how you use them. Because I expect some of you are going to be watching this and thinking, well, why do you do it that way? Why don't you do it this way? There's all sorts of ways you can do that. Yep, you're right, there are. This is just my way. That's all there is. I just want to ease that up onto there a bit. That's pretty good, and I just want to make sure I'm going to include that edge along there. Now remember, I've got my little bit of blade over here. I'm going to leave it in place. I'm going to let that create a bit of a halo, and then I'll show you how to fix it. Right, so the inside's selected. Now I can work on that individually. Let's take the exposure up just a teeny bit. That's better, isn't it? Let's just increase the clarity a little bit inside there, because look, you see, clarity has a bit of a lighting effect. You see how it's kind of bringing this area here up, and I like that. So I'm just going to give it a hint of clarity. Next, let's have a look at our white balance. What are we going to do? Well, I want to work on the village. Now I know I added yellow to that already, but it's still looking quite blue. So let's take that and say this is white, and click. And there we go, a bit of yellow's come in. Now that's looking a bit better, and I may even increase the yellow content overall. Just sneak it in. Again, I use my up arrow key. That's looking a bit nicer. That's looking a lot nicer. Let's add a bit more clarity overall. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. But I hear you say the inside's going a bit of a yellowy colour. I can put a bit of green into it. Yeah, that's looking nicer. Let's do a before and after for you. There we go. Look, we're getting there. Yeah, it is, but it doesn't really matter, does it? Because we've got a brush here and we have got the inside, whoops, click on that one, we have got the inside masked off. So all I've got to do to remove that yellow is just pop a bit of blue in. There we go, and we're back. I also want to increase the saturation inside. I like piggy down there. I want a bit more colour going on. Let's just lift it again. I don't want to go too far because I want to make it look like it's been HDR'd, which, let's see, if you sort of go like that, it's too much. It doesn't look right. Somewhere around there, I think, is pretty good. Okay, there's a fair bit of brush work in this. We're doing brush work today. Now, this area here, I kind of like this area. I want to increase the light in here, make it look a little bit more as I remember it. So I'm going to use a radial. Let's just pop a bit of radial filter in there, something like that. I'm just going to run it across that corner. That's too big. Shorten it. There we go. Look. Now let's just lift that up a bit. We're not going mad. We're just lifting it up a bit because it's more natural looking. There is light there because that's where the window is. Look, we're on 0.5 of a stop. Again, I have a tendency to pull a contrast slider with it. I just think the difference is subtle, but it looks good. Okay, I'm going to duplicate that. Control duplicate. So I've now got another one which I'm going to put over here on our pig because I rather like the pig. If you watch me take the picture, I said I really want to get the piggy in. Nothing like a piggy, is there? And also, because we've got some light which is leading in through here to the pig, that looks natural. And the two are at the same sort of level. I don't want to go mad with it because then it would look unnatural. Here we go. Look at the difference we've made, and we haven't shot an HDR. If I shot multiple frames and bracketed it, I'd have to do all this all over again. So we're starting to look better, but I'm not quite happy. I think I'm going to increase overall clarity just a bit. Here we go. Look, you see that's too much, but we're getting there. We're getting there. And that's about right. I want to put more colour and vibrancy and saturation. That's looking better. Now as I've done that, you see how the inside has gone much more yellow. Well, that's pretty accurate of what the place was like, but I think it's too much. So let's just ease that yellow back. You see, you take a step forward, you take a step back. You just work with these things a little bit at a time. Here we go. That's just taking that yellow down. Look, you see, all I've had to do is go to -12 on the yellow. Just pump a bit of blue in and it's looking more natural. Good. What about this? You see we got that little halo running down there. Okay, so let's fix it. Oh, I need to zoom out again because first I want my brush. It's this brush, so let's just select it. Then I want to get into this corner, spacebar click, let's just get in there. Now you can see that annoying halo. I've got a small brush, we press the Alt key, we get a minus. Press the right square bracket. Let's just take that up a bit. I want to give it a tiny bit more feather, but not much. There we go. I think that's enough. It may be too much. Back it off. You see, you take a stroke, you do something. Now with the Alt key pressed, I've got the minus, and all I have to do is go click. Let's just follow this down and you'll be able to see, look, can you see how, let's make sure on full flow we are, this little halo. You see, I forgot to, I'm not very good at talking and doing, am I? That's better. Look, you see how we're now losing our halo. Bit by bit, just work your way down. There we go. Nice. Good. And I can just kind of make sure we haven't got any overshadowing there. There's a little bit going on in there. We can just take that out. Pretty good. Look, you see, we've lost that nasty halo. So there we go. I'd say that image is also pretty much done. There's one final little thing I want to do with this too. I'm also going to put a very small vignette. Now I'm not a big fan of over vignetting, but we are inside a building. It wants to have a little bit of darkness around the edges, which sort of leads you into the picture. So I'm going to say that is pretty good. One final check on the blacks and whites technically. Let's just ease that up a bit and back it off till they've gone. Yeah, I think that's nicer. What are our blacks saying? About right for my tastes. there anything else? Well, compositionally, you may want to crop that piece of wood out. Personally, I think I'd rather leave it there, because crop it out, you've got to take it all the way down into here to make it more panoramic, and I find that accentuates these bits of wood, and you don't really want to make it too cropped, I don't think. Yeah, maybe it kind of works. I still think I prefer it as it was. So I'm going to leave it like that. If I'm going to crop anything, I'm going to take a little bit off this bottom corner. Let's just take that off a bit across the bottom, take that in a bit across here. Here we go. So I'm pretty happy with that. Possibly one thing would be to put a bit more life into these bushes. So simple, just grab a brush. What do we want? Let's just put a bit more feather onto it. And I like to mask. I do like to mask. I want to. No, I'm not going to mask this time. Why am I not going to mask this time? It's because I want to watch it happen. I know what I'm going to do. I want to increase the saturation a bit, and I want to increase the exposure just a bit, and it matches that additional light we put in here. So look, you see, it's pretty subtle, isn't it? I'm just putting in a little bit of highlight on these bits around here. I don't want it everywhere, because if the light was hitting here, this would be a bit more in shade. So let's like that. You see, you still got to think like a photographer, even when you're doing your post-production. Let's have a look at that. That looks a bit better. Too much exposure, back it off a touch. There we go. I like it. I think we're good there. Take it off one more. Look, I've only gone 0.3 of a stop, but it's just put some little subtle highlights. In themselves, they're not that noticeable, but overall it makes a difference. So there we go. There's our two shots. Let's give it a full screen for you, and that is how I have developed them. Hope that helped, guys. I hope it's given you a little bit more of an idea as to what RAW's all about and why it's great. I've got a course coming out later this year called 7 Steps to Perfect Pictures, which complements my 7 Steps to Workflow Mastery. Workflow is all about how you set Lightroom up, how you manage it, how you use all the different image sorting, cataloging tools, how to manage your catalogs and all that stuff. Perfect Pictures is going to be about the develop module alone and all this good stuff and more. It'll be coming out sometime late this summer. That's summer 2017. So guys, I hope that video was helpful. Please, if you liked it, please share it, click in a couple of likes. Love to get some comments, tell us what you think. You can always visit my website and sign up for our newsletter, photographycourses.biz/video. You'll find a sign up form. We don't bombard you with stuff, but we'll let you know each time a new video goes live, and sometimes there's some other cool stuff too. If you'd like to put your name down for 7 Steps to Perfect Pictures, you can leave me your name and email address on the site, and I will let you know as soon as it's available. Hope that was helpful. Take care, have a great week. See you next time.